وعباد الرحمن الذين يمشون على الأرض هونا وإذا خاطبهم الجاهلون قالوا سلاما والذين يبيتون لربهم سجدا وقياما والذين يقولون ربنا اصرف عنا عذاب جهنم إن عذابها كان غراما.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن استنى بسنته إلى يوم الدين. All praise is due to Allah, and may Allah's peace and blessings be on the last Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and on all those who follow the path of righteousness until the last day. The way to real happiness is a way to achieve the goals that we spoke about in yesterday's lecture. Because if the ultimate goal is paradise, then that is where ultimate happiness lies. So today's topic is related to yesterday's topic. But as there is in the way of Islam benefits in this world, and we spoke about them yesterday, we said that though the goal is paradise in the next, and Islam is the way for us to reach there, at the same time it has practical benefits for us in this life. Were there no benefits, if there were no benefits in this life from Islam, and all of it would be only in the life to come, then it would be too great a trial for us as human beings to hold on to Islam. And Allah in His mercy, Allah in His mercy has given in the religion of Islam benefits, practical benefits, which we see, we live, we experience. So holding on firmly to Islam makes sense, because what is there in the life to come we can't see here. What benefits we can see here helps to keep us firm to be able to fulfill the requirements to achieve the ultimate goal in the next life. So when we talk about the path to happiness, what is the real path to happiness? And happiness in this life is something everybody wants. From the newborn child to the person on his deathbed, everybody in this life wants to be happy. So much so that among the non-Muslims you will hear those who seek to terminate their lives saying, if I can't be happy, then it is not worth living this life. So happiness is the priority for most people in this world. And everybody is involved in one way or another trying to achieve it. However, when we look at the actual definition of happiness, which is a contented and satisfied state of mind, this contented and satisfied state of mind may not be in a pleasurable circumstance. For people who are focused on the material world, they link happiness with pleasure. That your circumstance should be pleasurable. You should be enjoying. If you're not enjoying, you can't be happy. But really, actually, a person may give up his life to help others, may live a very difficult life in order to help others. A parent may sacrifice in pain to help their child. And in helping the child or in helping others, we find contentment and a satisfied state of mind. So one can be happy even if there is no pleasure there. It is not, pleasure is not equal to happiness. But in this world, people tend to equate the two. So, pleasure tends to be looked at first and foremost from a sensual perspective. So people get caught up in drugs. Isn't that what drugs are all about? Cocaine, heroin, marijuana, all the various drugs that people take. They are trying to find what? Happiness. But the reality is that the drugs don't really give them happiness. It gives them a pleasurable state for a period of time, but you can't be in that state all the time. And usually when they come off the state, they feel worse than they were before they went into the state. Withdrawal. Horrible. Drives people to all kinds of acts of self-destruction. Also, some people seek happiness through music. This is a popular one. Music. So music is piped in everywhere. In the supermarket, in the business place, in the elevators, everywhere. So people are just living because they believe that this music will keep people happy. A happy shopper is a shopper who will spend more. If they're not happy, they will only spend what is necessary. So the music is to keep them in that happy state. And, of course, it is a form of addiction also. People become so addicted to it that they can't function without it. I oftentimes hear from students who tell me, I can't study without music. If I don't have these things plugged in my ears, I can't study properly. I say they're addicted. But if music, like drugs, were something really bringing about happiness, then we wouldn't have the cases of self-destruction like Michael Jackson and others who have killed themselves with overdoses of drugs, and the musicians would be the happiest people on the earth. But instead we find the musicians corrupted. They're some of the most corrupt elements on the earth. So this is saying something. Also, for some people, happiness, they find happiness through sexual relations. So this becomes a big thing in the society, this form of happiness. So they decriminalized fornication. Then they decriminalized adultery. Then they decriminalized homosexuality. And in many European states today, they have decriminalized even incest. In Sweden, France, Germany, this is not a crime anymore. Decriminalized. What is it all about? What is at the root of all of that? That this is something pleasurable. So as long as the people who are seeking pleasure and happiness through it are adults, nobody is being forced. Who are we to say no? But reality is that, does it really bring happiness? If we look at the consequences in terms of the breakdown of families, and human beings are created with a need for family and family relationships. But when sex becomes a focus as a path or the route to happiness, then your end result is breakup of the family, breakdown of the family. That is why, for example, in Germany after World War II, when so many male Germans died in the war, and the country decided to look at legalizing polygamy, because they had a huge number of women, widows and others, and a small number of men. However, the church opposed it, so they didn't legalize it. So what did they do then? They legalized prostitution. So in Germany, a prostitute is referred to as a sex worker. She pays her taxes, she has medical benefits, she has everything like other people in regular jobs. So what do you think that does to the society? They have reached zero population growth and they're going into the minus. People don't need to marry anymore. What's the point? It's hassles, problems. Life is simpler, you just have your relations without marriage. So the family is crumbling. So though technologically we know the BMW, right? That's one of, and the Mercedes, these are the big products of Germany, you know, the top class cars, technology. But the core of the society is rotten. It's crumbling from within. And for some people, religion becomes a means of sensual happiness. And this is why you find in general, in the West, Christianity is practiced with music. You go and look at the televangelists, and you see they have full-scale rock groups. The preacher, he is the lead singer. And, that's what they have. It's just a party. Singing, swaying, dancing, disco. That becomes worship. Of course, people, it's the same addiction. The music produces the same kind of feeling, so the people feel, inspired. They go out feeling good. But of course, that feeling is only for the moment. Otherwise, people focus for happiness on the material possessions, the car, having a nice car, or having a nice home, or they focus on children or the salary. These are things that people feel, if I have this car of my dreams, I will be happy. But people, after they get the car, still not happy. Maybe the moment they actually achieved it, they felt a sense of accomplishment and happiness, but it doesn't last. Because as the Prophet ﷺ had said, if the descendants of Adam were given a valley of gold, they would want another one. There's no end. One cannot fulfill or fill the void through material possessions. Then people try through vacations. The vacation, the ultimate vacation. People work all their lives so that they can go on that vacation. And save up whatever, so you finally retire and you go on your vacation. You buy that yacht, they show you on the television, and you set sail off into the sunset. But if you happen to go around the Horn of Africa and you come up by Somalia, your vacation could have a rude ending. So they had this couple there who had been out on the vacation, traveling around the world. They got captured. They were begging, crying on television, help us! Their vacation ruined. And sports. Sports becomes also a means for people to achieve happiness. People get very worked up. The basketball game, the cricket game, this, you see people very emotional. When the team wins, hey, you're ecstatic. There's happiness there. But it's only for a minute. The team gets beaten, and then you're sad. So it's just up and down, there's no real happiness there. People try it through what they call extreme sports. So you do this bungee jumping, jump off a bridge with a rubber band tied to your foot, What is it? This is madness. But people seeking happiness, the thrill, the rush. Ridiculous. Real happiness is not to be found in these things at all. Actually, the Prophet ﷺ, 1,400 years ago, he identified the elements for true happiness. He said in a hadith narrated by Suhaib ibn Sinan, عجبا لأمر المؤمن إن أمره كله خير وليس ذلك لأحد إلا للمؤمن. The affair of the believer is amazing. The whole of his life is beneficial, and that is only in the case of the believer. إن أصابته سراء شكر فكان خيرا له وإن أصابته ضراء صبر فكان خيرا له. When good times come to him, he is grateful and it is good for him. And when bad times befall him, he is patient and it is good for him. The affair of the believer is amazing, and this is only in the case of the true believer. The Prophet ﷺ identified in this statement of his 1,400 years ago 3 key principles for true happiness. The 3 principles are: 1, faith; 2, gratitude; and 3, patience. These are the 3 key elements for ultimate happiness in this life and the next. In terms of faith, modern research has shown that people who are firm in their faith, spiritually committed people, are twice as likely to report being very happy than their less religiously committed people. These non-Muslims, in their own research, they have found in studies, a review of 498 studies published in a peer-reviewed journal, concluded that a large majority of people showed a positive correlation between religious commitment and higher levels of perceived well-being, self-esteem, lower levels of hypertension, depression, and clinical delinquency. An analysis of over 200 social studies contends that high religiousness predicts a lower risk of depression. That's the opposite. Opposite of happiness is depression and abuse, and fewer suicide attempts, and more reports of a sense of well-being, and so on and so forth. A variety of research studies have shown a direct correlation. People of strong faith have a better sense of well-being and contentment, and happiness is the essence of happiness, because we said in the beginning, happiness is a contented and satisfied state of mind. People with strong faith, this is much more prevalent among them than people with weak faith or no faith. In terms of gratitude, a large body of recent work has suggested also that people who are more grateful have higher levels of well-being. Grateful people are happier, less depressed, less stressed, more satisfied with their lives and social relationships. Grateful people also have higher levels of control of their environments, personal growth, purpose in life, and self-acceptance. Grateful people have more positive ways of coping with the difficulties they experience in life, being more likely to seek support from other people, to grow from the experience, and to spend more time planning how to deal with the problems. Grateful people also have less negative coping strategies, being less likely to try to avoid the problems, deny that there is a problem, blame themselves, or cope through substance abuse. In general, grateful people are happier people. And that is why you find in all of the religions a stress on gratitude. In fact, some studies done in restaurants where the waiters would write on the receipt when people paid the money, "Thank you." They found that over 70%, there was an over 70% increase in the customers coming back and eating at the restaurant. Just that simple phrase, "Thank you," handwritten, not printed by the computer, but handwritten on there by the waiter. And in other businesses they tried it out and found the same thing. That sense of the gratitude, it causes people to respond positively. That creates a positive environment, a happier environment. If the person comes back, it means they'll tip you again. Right? You'll get high. You keep happy. And this is actually very consistent with what Allah said. لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. If you are grateful, I will give you more. Your showing gratitude will cause whatever you have to be increased. It could be from where you didn't expect it, or it could be from sources that could be expected. Patience, on the other hand, when it's looked at, it is looked at by Western researchers, psychology, etc., as a decision-making problem, not as a characteristic. But they have shown that though human beings, like animals, tend to be impatient, if they have to choose between an immediate small reward or a greater long-term reward, they choose the immediate short-term reward. That is the nature. They don't have the patience to wait. That is the nature of human beings. And that's what Allah says in the Quran. وَخُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ عَجُولًا. Human beings were created impatient. That is the fundamental nature. But for one to achieve happiness, then one has to be patient. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala identified the reality of human life in terms of the various tests, saying in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 155, I will certainly test you with fear, hunger, loss of life, loss of wealth, and the fruits. So give glad tidings to those who are patient. He is identifying this key principle for happiness, because trials in life are inevitable. No one will escape them. So therefore, one must develop it. So we can see that the three keys of happiness, faith, gratitude, and patience, are recognized even by non-Muslim researchers looking into human sociology, coming to the same conclusions. This is real. This situation which the Prophet ﷺ described for the believer is real. It has practical benefits. So, how do we develop faith, gratitude, and patience? First and foremost, we have to understand what is faith. In order to be able to develop it, we need to understand what it is. According to the classical definition in fiqh, aqidah, it is described as a belief in the heart, expressed on the tongue, and acted upon by the limbs. Belief in the heart, expressed on the tongue and acted upon by the limbs. For a person to become a Muslim, he or she has to make a public declaration of faith. That is the expression on the tongue. For that expression on the tongue to be real, to be acceptable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then it must have belief in the heart at the bottom of it. Otherwise, it's just words of no value. But according to the Sharia, as it is understood by the scholars of Islam, for that faith to be real, the limbs should act on it. And that's why, after the declaration of faith, which is the expression on the tongue, we then have 4 pillars of Islam which represents acting on that declaration by the limbs. Number 1 being salah. Number 2, fasting, zakah, and hajj. These all represent acting upon that faith, and are in fact inseparable from the faith. So faith is not just a belief or just a statement, a belief and a statement, but it is a belief and statement which is acted upon. So, how does one gain faith? Where is the starting point from which one gains faith? Well, the starting point has to be knowledge. It has to be knowledge. Allah tells us in the Quran, اعلموا أنه لا إله إلا الله. No, have knowledge that there is no God worthy of worship but Allah. This is a command that we must know this. This is the basis of our faith. It is from knowledge. This is why children who we raise, they may be Muslims externally, where they do the acts that we do. We tell them to do it, so they pray, they fast, they go and make hajj with us. But we can't tell them to have faith. We can't tell them to have faith. That faith will only develop if we give them the necessary information and knowledge. When they have that knowledge, then the faith can develop. This is why we said that it is critical that our children be educated in those first early years before they even step into school. Between the early months, years of their lives up to the 5th year, where their personalities are formed, we have to inculcate in them a consciousness of Allah, where everything is related back to Allah. So they have that knowledge. That's knowledge you're giving them. So they link the world around them to Allah. So that knowledge, when Allah said, "Know that none has the right to be worshipped but Allah," that knowledge gives us the understanding of the most important principle in our lives, which is worship. That the faith is manifest in worship. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran had said, وَمَا الْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ, I have not created the jinn and humankind except to worship me. But we should understand that worship here does not mean specifically and only coming to the mosque, making salah, or making dua, fasting, hajj. These are aspects. These are actual acts which are specified acts of worship. But for the believer, one who has faith, then the whole of his or her life is supposed to become worship. Because if they're seeking to please Allah in all aspects of their lives, then they're seeking to turn all aspects of their lives into worship. Because when we do something which is pleasing to Allah, that is worship. That's the essence of worship. And of course, what is pleasing to Allah first and foremost are the things which Allah has prescribed, has made obligatory on us. Then the things which are recommended, and so on and so forth. So, the faith has to be based first and foremost on knowledge. People who enter a religion without knowledge, they enter it emotionally, can become very strong believers based on that emotion, but it could be strong believers, they could be strong believers in falsehood. You find Christians, Buddhists, Hindus having very strong faith, firm faith, but it is firm faith in falsehood. Why? Because it wasn't based on knowledge. It was based on emotion. They were caught up in the emotion. That's the danger. That if faith is not based on knowledge, then we end up having faith in the wrong things. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ had said, seeking knowledge is compulsory for every Muslim. Talabul ilmi farid ala kulli Muslim. Why? Because it is essential for us to have correct faith, that we have a foundation of knowledge. It's built on knowledge. The question which a lot of people ask with regards to faith is, how do we increase faith? Is faith something you just have it or you don't have it? Or it's something which increases and decreases? Because we experience times when faith seems to be low and times when faith seems to be high. So what is it? What do we need to do to increase faith? Well, it's very simple. It's been pointed out by the scholars that faith is increased by what? Good deeds, righteous deeds. And it's decreased by sins. Sins. Very simple. You do sins, you live a sinful life, your faith goes down. You do righteous deeds, your faith goes up. So doing righteous deeds, we want to increase our faith, then we increase our righteous deeds. We correct what is wrong in our lives. And our faith will go up. It's very simple. It's not complicated. In fact, even Western psychologists and others who focus on positive psychology in dealing with depression, etc., in their list of things to do to overcome depression, they say go out and do a good deed. The non-Muslims, whatever you consider to be a good deed, go out and do it and you'll feel better. And sure enough, it has that impact and that effect. So this is a necessity that we have to cultivate that faith. Otherwise, issues of gratitude, issues of patience become non-issues. We cannot achieve gratitude and patience if we don't really have faith. That's the foundation. And that faith, as the Prophet ﷺ had said, Man qala la ilaha illallah, dakhala al-jannah. Whoever says with sincerity, some narrations, mukhlisan min qalbi, la ilaha illallah, there is no God worthy of worship but Allah, will enter paradise. So it is the key, it is the foundation. But it must be said with knowledge. We have to know what we're saying. It's not just about saying the words. And we should know, for those of us that may be caught up in a ritual, that when the Prophet ﷺ had said, لَقِّنُوا مَوْتَاكُمْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ, tell your dead to say and to repeat La ilaha illallah. It doesn't literally mean the person who is dead, you stand over them saying, say La ilaha illallah. No, he's not going to say anything. He's dead. But we have some cultures where they do that. The body is being carried away. People still tell him, say La ilaha illallah, say La. He's dead, gone, finished. This is in reference to those who are dying, so that this would be the last words that they would say before leaving this world. We encourage them to remember Allah, to say La ilaha illallah, which is the greatest form of dhikr, remembrance of Allah. Secondly, gratitude, which is defined as thankfulness or appreciation. This is the positive emotion wherein people acknowledge benefit. Something has been done for us and we acknowledge it. That is gratitude. And this gratitude is something which we find Allah in the Quran stressing, as we mentioned before, لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. If you are thankful, if you show gratitude, Allah will increase. Prophet ﷺ had said, whoever doesn't thank people doesn't thank Allah. Man lam yashkurin nas lam yashkurillah. This is a requirement. This is a part of gratitude. That gratitude is not just recognizing that all good comes from Allah, because yes, that is true, but that good may come through the creatures of Allah. So we show appreciation to them. This is a requirement. And we show that appreciation in a variety of different ways. But the basic way is to say thank you. Because that encourages other people to be thankful. Because when somebody has something good or does something good for others and they don't thank them, and the person needs something later, they will be reluctant. They say this person is ungrateful. Ingratitude is something which human beings naturally despise. They look down on it. So that is why the Prophet ﷺ insisted, made it a requirement, a condition for gratitude to Allah to be expressed through gratitude to His creatures. And the Prophet ﷺ had also said, don't look to those above you, but look to those below you, as it is best for you to remember Allah's favor on you. To be appreciative, to be grateful, you look to those below you. In the material things of this world, you look to those below you. Because when you look to those above you, you will never be satisfied. Why does he have and I don't have? It's not fair. You know, looking to others who have more than us, this just makes us ungrateful for what we have. Reality is that no matter how bad, has to be something you do which is eventually going, then Allah will give you patience. So this is something worth striving for, because it represents the third of the three keys to true happiness in this life. It is a state which Stephen Covey called the win-win principle. Among the 7 habits of the successful people is that they look at circumstances from a win-win perspective. And this is what you're doing. When good times come, you are grateful, and Allah rewards you for your gratitude. When difficult times come, you are patient, and Allah rewards you for your patience. So you never lose. You're in a win-win situation all the time. Because no matter what issues come into life, what problems arise, you have to know that ultimately there is good coming. Inna ma'al usri yusra. There is ease that will come after this time of difficulty. And what you saw to be not a good thing could be a good thing, depending on how you treat it. People ask, how do we distinguish between punishment from Allah and a trial which increases your faith? Externally, they seem to be the same thing. So really, because when the Prophet ﷺ was asked, who are the people who have the most trials in their lives? He said what? The prophets, then those most like them, then those most like them. The prophets received the most trials in life. What was the purpose of that? Was Allah punishing them? No, obviously not. But these trials were to increase their faith. It strengthened their faith. So, trials may be a means of strengthening faith. And then we have trials like the people of Lut. What happened to them? Did that strengthen their faith? No, that was just punishment. So, trials can come in both forms. So how does one know when a trial hits them, is this one to increase my faith, or is it just Allah giving us punishment? Reality is, how we deal with the trial determines whether it is faith building or it's punishment. We end up determining that. Of course, Allah knows before He gave us the trial what it was going to be relative to us. But for us, in the end, it is we who determine whether the trial builds our faith or whether it becomes a source of punishment for us. We decide by our reaction to it. How do we respond to it? The proper way is to look at the trial as a test to build our faith. Assume all that come are those and deal with them in that way, and that's what they will be. Because the trial could be a wake-up. There's an element of punishment there, but it's a wake-up call. You know, sometimes we are doing things and then a trial hits us, we say, astaghfirullah. Where did that, why did that, oh, okay, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Okay, let me stop doing those things. So, that is a wake-up call. If we decide to stop doing the things which we can assume is a cause for what has happened to us, then it has increased our faith. Because stopping evil deeds is a good deed. So our faith will increase. So it becomes faith building for us. So, this is the key, consisting of 3 elements. The key to true happiness. Faith, firm faith in Allah, gratitude, and patience. So, again, as we said last night, for this to be of benefit, this gathering, to be a blessed gathering, where Allah is pleased from our presence here, then we have to commit ourselves to acting on this knowledge. Knowledge from the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he gave us the 3 keys. We have to decide, first and foremost, that we have to renew our faith. where we have been low. We know we're involved in all kinds of sins and corruption. Our lives are far away from Islam. We have to renew our faith, repent, turn back to Allah, and ask Allah's forgiveness, and He will forgive us. That is His promise. He will forgive. No matter how great our sins may be, He will forgive if we turn back sincerely. So that's what we have to do. That's what we have to walk out of here tonight committed to. That's what we need to do. We talked last night about change. It's the same thing here. This is the change that we have to make. Renew that faith. And be grateful to Allah. Be positive in our outlook. Not pessimistic, negative, no. Be positive. Recognize Allah's bounties in our lives. And remind others of it. Remind our family members. Remind our children. Our friends. Remember to thank Allah. And we have to be patient. We have to leave here understanding we've got a formula for developing patience. The Prophet ﷺ has given it to us. We can either take it, apply it in our lives, and gain this wonderful attribute, this wonderful characteristic about which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran said, وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. Give glad tidings. What? Glad tidings of paradise for the patient ones. For those who are patient, the ultimate reward is paradise. When the parents of Ammar ibn Yasir, his father and his mother, and himself were being tortured, what did the Prophet ﷺ say when he came by and saw them? He said, be patient, O family of Yasir. You have an appointment in paradise. Both his father and mother were tortured to death. Be patient, O family of Yasir. You have an appointment in paradise. So, if this is what we want for ourselves, the tools are there. We just have to accept them, make that commitment again to change these elements in our lives. The faith element, the gratitude element, and the patience elements. These three elements we have to correct. With that, we will attain paradise in the next life, and we will attain happiness in this life. That is the promise of the Prophet ﷺ. And that is the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if we believe in La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, if we believe in it, then we have to act on it. If we're not acting on it, then that's proof that we don't believe in it. Because when you are sure about something and you really believe in that thing, you're going to act according to it. That's real. So, brothers, sisters, this is what is before each and every one of us. To commit ourselves tonight to again take specific steps to change these elements in our lives, to set them right. We want happiness to come into our lives, then here is the way. Islam is the way. Specifically, these acts represent the foundation of the way. Simple. So we just have to make that decision. So just before we have the adhan and the salah of Isha, I'm going to ask everybody here who is ready to commit themselves to this path of happiness. To make that commitment, put their hands up. Before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we will leave here tonight with that commitment and to act on it. Barakallahu feekum. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We had 4,500 students. By the end of last year, 2009, we had 15,000 students. Now we have over 20,000 students from different parts, from over 160 different countries around the world. So these courses are completely free. No costs involved at all. You just go in, register, sign up, and start doing your courses. In Aqidah, in Fiqh, in Arabic, it is all there, inshallah. At the same time, since the beginning of this last month, of April, since the beginning of April, we also launched a BA in Islamic Studies, a BA in Islamic Studies course also. And this one is a full course. You do have some time requirements. The other one you can come on and go off whenever you wish. It's completely at your own time determination. You know, whatever time you have, whenever you have time, you go on. Of course, it's always better these things to set time. Otherwise, you'll always get busy and you end up, not following up. But the point is, though, you can go completely at your own pace. There are lectures which you will download. You watch the lecture. The text will be downloaded. You study the text. There is a test. Multiple choice questions after every single lecture. There are assignments. You have to write in assignments, type it in and send it in. They're corrected, marks sent back. At the end of the course, if you have passed, then the certificate is sent to you that you have done this course. So all of it is online. As I said, all of that is free. Now the BA course is slightly different in that there is a time when you must take exams. You have a midterm, you have a final exam. And these are done at specific times. You have 6 months in which to complete the courses. The 6 courses are offered, and you have, basically it's 5 months of classes, actually, 5 months of classes to complete those courses. After 2.5 months, there's a week of exams. After the next 2.5 months is a week of exams. So you must attend those exams at those times. In between those 2.5 months, you can go at your own pace. You might be off 1 week, you do 2 weeks work in 1 week. It's up to you how you do it, but you must sit the exams on time. And there is a symbolic fee for registration and examination. It's minimal, $50 for registration and examination. It's on a sliding scale. If you're in India, it's only $10. Here in Canada, it's $50. So it varies according to where you are around the world. And that is whether you take 3 courses or you take 6 courses, just one fee. It's not for each subject, just one fee. Right? And that program has now started. It is not currently accredited, but inshallah we're working on getting it accredited through some of the universities which are currently accredited, like universities from Malaysia. I'm already speaking with the head of the new university in Medina. It's known as Medina International University, whose base is in Malaysia, but their actual buildings are in Medina. And I'm discussing with them about the possibility of them issuing the degree for us, which will be an accredited degree. But at any rate, whether accredited or not accredited, the point is that the program is there, the BA program. It's a complete program, 6 subjects per semester. You have 8 semesters, so it means you have how many? 48 subjects that you would be taking. Okay? So that's just information for you. It is online. It's the Islamic Online University. So you do www.islamiconlineuniversity.com. You just go in and then start registration, whether you want the short courses or the BA course, you choose and you go ahead.
Can you repeat that again? Islamic Online?
islamiconlineuniversity.com.
How long will it take that 48 courses?
The 48 courses are over 4 years. It's a 4-year degree.
You get a bachelor at the end.
Yeah, there will be a bachelor's degree. Hopefully by the time it's ended, it will be bachelor's, accredited bachelor's. If not, it is a bachelor's issued by the Islamic Online University. And inshallah, the curriculum that we are using is the curriculum from Medina, from Durman Islamic University, from Al-Azhar. You know, it is following the same basic study program for Usul al-Din and Dawah. And it is taught, the courses, of course, all the courses are taught in English.
What would you recommend if you're just kind of starting off in the deen as a new Muslim? What would be a good, for the 22 courses you're talking about, what would be a good one to start off?
In terms of the free short courses, they are set up systematically. So if you go to the first course, which is called the Foundations of Islamic Studies, that's it. That's where you start from. As a new Muslim, that goes through all of your pillars of Islam, Iman, all of the basic principles. The foundation is all there. Then after that, there are courses on Tahara, on Salah, you know, dealing with fasting. It's all there. Inshallah. So it's, as I said, it's structured. There's level 1, which has like 4 courses, 4 or 5 courses, then level 2, 4 or 5 courses. So you just go from level to level. Inshallah.
There's one question here.
It is in English. The course, the teaching of the course is in English with the exception of the subject of Arabic. Subject of Arabic is then taught using English to teach Arabic initially, and then it will be taught completely in Arabic, the subject of Arabic. And this is actually a very, very good opportunity, especially for women, you know, who oftentimes don't get the chance to access knowledge because of the requirements of being in their homes, etc., not allowed to travel really on their own, etc., as Islam, you know, requires mahram and all these other kinds of things. So it is an opportunity for them. This is why actually I would say probably about 60% of the students are women who have registered in both the short courses as well as the BA.
You have to be fluent in Arabic for that?
No, the Arabic fluency is not a requirement. As I said, you're taught. You will be taught Arabic as a subject there. And for, of course, for the BA, you have to have a high school. You have to have a high school certificate to do it. You know, a valid high school. For those who don't have it, then we will allow them to study it, but not with a BA. You know, you study it, at the end we'll give you a diploma that you have studied these courses, so, you know, and the courses will be identified, etc., but we cannot issue a BA if you don't have a high school to start. That is basic university requirements around the world.
Just wondering whether, because speaking of that, my wife was wondering, she has 2 credits left to do in high school, and she started this BA program, as you say, just doing the courses, and then worked on getting her remaining 2 credits to get her grade 12 thing. Does she kind of slide right into the BA? Or?
Well, this becomes an issue. Yeah, it may be an issue because to allow somebody to come in on the one basis and you study under that basis, it means you study that way till the end, on that basis. If you're going to do it on the basis of a BA program, then you had to have had that at the time of your beginning the course. I would say that, at least if she begun the course of study now and she had it finished those 2 courses that remains before the end of the semester, then she can get by. Otherwise, she will be required to repeat the semester. Okay,
Just I'd like to revisit the point which was...
Well, brother, okay, fine. That's a big claim on your part, especially saying that about Sheikh Nasruddin Albani, because I know, you want to bring the evidence, bring the evidence. Because what I know from his position is that it's clearly haram, without a shadow of a doubt. Sheikh bin Baz has ruled it is haram, Sheikh Al-Uthaymeen has ruled it haram, many others. Anyway, even in spite of, anyway, brother, anyway, the basic point, as I said here, is that suicide in Islam is haram. That is something no scholar who is a scholar says otherwise. Okay? I'm saying suicide in Islamic law is haram without a shadow of a doubt. Okay, so finish. So, okay, so that is the point, brother. That is the point. Brother, anyway, the bottom line is I have explained the point yesterday as I understood it, and then it's up to people. You can go and research and you can come to whatever conclusion you want. I have given the point as I have understood it. That suicide in Islam is haram. And blowing yourself up is an act of suicide. And that, so we put those 2 together, this is not permissible as a general rule. If you want to say there may be exceptions, there may be some exceptional circumstances, whatever, that may be, but we're talking about as a norm.
Yeah, it's a norm of society. Nobody in Islam would say that society.
Go ahead.
But we are speaking about a different situation. It's in a battlefield. It's in a situation we are.
Brother, we were talking about a young lady who went in a subway.
No, that's different.
That's what we're talking. That's what the context. That was the context under. That was the context under which it was said.
People raised the
Protect one leg, it's like protecting all.
Anyway, brother, it's enough. The point has been made. As we said, the circumstance where the subject was raised was concerning that young lady who blew herself up in the subway in Moscow. That's where it was raised. Later on, mention was made of Palestine, where similar acts done in a similar fashion, it will be with the same ruling. I hold, that is my position. If others want to say it is halal, they may say so. You have people who say it's halal to take mortgage. You have people say it's halal, the Sheikh Al-Azhar said it's halal to take interest. So we can have people say halal, there you can find opinions, you can find whatever. But in the end, what we look at is, what is the evidence? What is the evidence? Where we have clear hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, which have no uncertainty in them, which prohibit suicide, then when we have that kind of evidence, for somebody to want to say, well, no, it is permissible, we have to say, bring your evidence. Bring your evidence that this is permissible. And you will not find any example from the life of the Sahaba where they did this. They may have gone on what is called suicide missions. They call it suicide missions, meaning that when you go to do this act, the chances of you coming back alive are very small. This is a well-known, military circumstance, right? A military circumstance. They call them suicide missions, right? Like in the case when they were trying to kill Musaylama, right? Musaylama and his forces had blockaded themselves in a fortress, and they couldn't get in. One of the Sahaba said, okay, you push me over the wall, I will get the gate open. Okay? So they put him on their shields, they pushed him up, he went over the wall. Now he's going over the wall into who? Into the midst of the army of Musaylama. That was a suicide mission. The likelihood of his coming out of that alive were very small. Very small. Right? So he went over there, he fought his way, got the door opened up, and they killed Musaylama. And he survived. It was very small, but he survived. That is the difference. Suicide mission, chances are very small, but there is a chance that you will. When you put bombs on yourself and you press that thing, there is no coming back. There is no chance at all. This is clearly you killing yourself. That's it. You know?
Say they kill one life, they're killing all mankind, but protect one life, they're protecting all mankind.
Yeah, this is, protection of human life, and this is the basic principles of the Sharia. So scholars have made exceptions where people may put themselves in those kind of suicidal situations for military advantage. In order to protect the army has to retreat, and the enemy is coming, and you need some people to slow the enemy down so the rest of the army can get away, so they stay back. 3-4 guys are staying back and fighting off a whole army. Chances of their survival, very small. That's a suicide mission. The head of the military can suggest this. In order to protect the overall army, you may lose certain lives here, which is legitimate. But we don't have the situation where when you do your act, you are in fact killing yourself. Where there is no possibility of you surviving. It's not a question of small chance, small likelihood. No, we're talking about zero. You're dead. You are killing yourself. So that methodology, Islamically, is not acceptable. Okay, carrying on, we have a lot of actually written questions here today. Try to go through them. Some of these questions, please, when you write questions, just try to be precise, clear, straightforward. What is your point? If somebody can figure out the exact point of this one, you can write it out. I'll try to find an answer for it. In yesterday's discussion, some words pronounced, those are rape and homosexuality. My daughter asked me, what are the meaning of these words? Brother, how do I explain those words? Well, you can, it depends on the age of the child. The daughter asked this question. No, it's a real question. Your kids will come home. They're living in this society. They will hear these things. Maybe in school. There's all kinds of trials that are happening in the schools today. Sex education. Yeah. So, what do you do? If you have kept your children out of that circumstance, away from it, got excused from those classes or whatever, still these things are spoken about by the other children. So your children come home and they ask you these questions. What do you say to them? Well, you try to explain to them according to the level of their understanding. You try to explain to them according to the level of their understanding. You don't need to get into graphic detail. Your 8-year-old or 9-year-old is asking you about rape. You say it is a bad thing. Some men, they do bad things to little girls. So you beware. So you use it as a means of educating them. Beware, if anybody tries to do any bad thing to you, something it's not good, they shouldn't be touching you, whatever. You don't have to go into the details of what it actually means, but you give them the general idea. That is sufficient. Level of age level, what kind of information you give them. Is mortgage halal? No. I have 3 sons and they all have long hair past their shoulders. Is this haram or is it allowed? How long or short can a man keep his hair? Well, it's sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. He used to grow his hair, almost to his shoulders. It was, they said, between his earlobe, right, and his shoulder. So he had long hair, and it was custom in that part of the world to have long hair. It's not a problem. But if they're growing the long hair in imitation of non-Muslims, then we have something which is despised in Islam. The Prophet ﷺ had said, "Man tashabbaha biqawmin fahuwa minhum." Right? So whoever imitates the way of a people is of them. So it is not a good practice. So we should discourage them. If they're doing it because they like to grow their hair long and they know it is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, fine, no problem. Right? But if they're doing it otherwise, ponytail, these kind of things, no, we say this is something we should discourage them from. Okay, brother is saying that one day he was having a difficulty, so he said, "Oh Allah, if you remove this difficulty from me, I'm going to remember you, make dhikr, remember you every minute and every second." Is this like an oath? Or is there kafara? Yes. I mean, if you are not doing it, obviously you're asking because you didn't do it, right? There's kafara. You've broken your oath, so you have to fast or feed poor people to remove that sin from yourself of having made such an oath.
How long?
I don't remember what is this for the nether. No, I don't remember. I don't want to say, but you can find out. Ask any of the brothers who specialize in Sharia. I was in a Prophet's mosque, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and a man was just saying La ilaha illallah hundreds of times. I asked someone about it, and they said he is Shia and it is bid'ah. Well, I don't know about he's Shia or not, but saying La ilaha illallah many times, hundreds of times, thousands of times, it's okay, it's permissible. If you're saying it, whilst you're saying it, then you're moving your head and you're swinging and you're swaying and you're doing all these other things. So now you're entering into areas of bid'ah. But just to repeat it, there's no, Allah says, "Uzkurullah dhikran kathira." Remember Allah often. He didn't put any number on it. So I came to Canada 20 years ago with my wife and 1-year-old daughter. My marriage was ended 7 years ago after my wife was influenced by the Canadian system of welfare. My question is, I am now married to a new wife in a Muslim country. Should I bring her to Canada? I think the Prophet ﷺ said the believer is one who is not stung from the same hole twice. Right? A recent study showed a strong correlation between happiness and charity. Can you please elaborate on this or share this? Well, it's what we said. Charity is giving. It's a good act, doing good, that people feel good having done good. What is the ruling concerning congregational dua after Quranic reading or after Salah? To do it as a regular practice, believing that it is something which was sunnah and should be done or whatever, this becomes bid'ah. If it's done on an occasion, without setting each and every time, then it's permissible. Dua is possible. To make a dua in congregation is also possible. The question concerning trimming the beard or shaving a part of it. Well, the practice of shaving, till you have like a goatee, you shave off all the sides, just keep hair here or just on your chin. Or this practice of shaving parts, we have the sideburns and the gap here, and this is not permissible. You grow your beard, is growing the beard. Means you don't shave a part. But again, in terms of the beard, what is considered the beard is what is on the jaw bone, right? What goes up onto your cheek up here, this is not considered beard. So if you remove it, it's not considered removing part of your beard. What grows on your neck is not considered beard. If you choose to remove it, you may remove it. Because the technical definition of what is the beard is what is growing, it's on the jaw itself, on the jaw. In terms of trimming it, if you trim it to the point where, according to some scholars, from a distance, people can't make out, has he got a beard or he doesn't have a beard? Then that's too low, right? Or what is known in the given society as a beard, as traditionally in that society, is known to be a beard, a person having grown their beard. Women who work as nurses have to take men, have to treat men, is what she means, at the hospital. They may encounter seeing private parts. Is it haram for them to work there? Well, the nursing profession, is one of treating the ill. Normally in a Muslim country, you would have a section for treating women, where the nurses would be female nurses, one for treating men, where the nurses would be male nurses. That is the proper separation, right? Avoiding the fitna which comes by the intermingling. But in an emergency situation, then either one may treat the other, where there is an emergency. You're on a subway, a woman starts to deliver a baby, you're a nurse, you're a male nurse. Can you help her? Yes, you help her. But you don't, we would say normally for a man, if he's going to study medicine, for him to choose gynecology, we say no, haram. Haram. As a doctor, you will learn the skills, basic skills of gynecology. So if an emergency arises, you can help. But to say that is going to be my profession, gynecology, what are you saying here? Not permissible. Though the profession, gynecology, or if you go to the profession, for example, of dentistry, this is another profession, which, Islamically speaking, because of the closeness that the person has to be when you're working in people's mouths, right? You see where the dentist, he's got almost his nose in your wife's mouth. No, this is not, it's not appropriate. Whereas an emergency situation, another situation. But in Islamic circumstances, you would have, dental clinics which are for men, dental clinics which are for women. This is the proper way. This is the Islamic way. People might say, oh, this is being extreme. No, it's not extreme. When you actually go and look at the numbers of cases of abuse of women, because usually it's not women who are dentists, abusing men. It's usually the other way around. This is what is happening, right? The number of cases are quite large. Here in Toronto, dentists who have been arrested for molesting women. How many cases? You can put up your statistics. This is abuse. Abuse which is going on all around the world, because it is the nature of a man. No matter what, he's taken the Hippocratic oath. It may cause it the Hippocratic oath. He is still a man. No matter what oath he made, he's still a man. And you put a woman spread out in front of you, please. It's not appropriate, and it's just breeding and encouraging abuse. Of course, feminists would say, oh, look at this, main chauvinism. But realities, G.I. Jane is getting it. She's suffering in the military. We always talk about G.I. Joe. We have G.I. Jane now. We have women in the military who are doing everything that the men are doing, but they are being abused at a rate which is way more than exists in the regular society. Huge percentages. There's horrible stuff going on there, but it's all in the name of equality. Yeah. Question. Sister wanted to know, or whoever, Abu Hanifa's man wanted to know, why there is a difference in fiqh, in the fiqh of Islam. So people follow only their fiqh and don't accept the fiqh of others, like Hanafi, Shafi'i, so also Maliki, etc. Well, actually I wrote a book on that called The Evolution of Fiqh, which explains where the madhabs came from, how they evolved, what should our position be with regards to the madhabs. It's a subject which one needs to read into it to understand. But to put it simply, if we want to understand where should we stand with regards to madhabs, I would say that Abu Hanifa was not a Hanafi. Imam Malik was not a Maliki. Imam Shafi'i was not a Shafi'i. And Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal was not a Hanbali. That is reality. Most people don't understand that. They think that Abu Hanifa was a Hanafi. So they're following Abu Hanifa, they're Hanafis because they're following Abu Hanifa who was a Hanafi. But it's not true. It's not true. Abu Hanifa was not a Hanafi. So if we want to follow Abu Hanifa, then we need to know what was the actual madhab of Abu Hanifa. So if he wasn't a Hanafi, what was he? What was his madhab? The madhab of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That was his madhab. He followed the madhab of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The same madhab which Abu Bakr, Omar, Uthman, Ali, the big Sahaba, everybody followed of the early generations. Same madhab, one madhab. And that's why he said, إِذَا صَحَّ الْحَدِيث فَهُوَ مَذْهَبِي. Abu Hanifa said, if the hadith is correct, meaning if what has been narrated from Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is an accurate narration, then that is my madhab. So what is he saying? He's saying his madhab was that of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that is the proper position that a Muslim should understand and follow. It doesn't mean that if your teacher, the scholar in your area who you have to turn to, he studied fiqh in the madhab of the Hanafi madhab, this is the fiqh that he studied, can we rely on him? Yes, we can. If he is the most knowledgeable, this is the one you take your knowledge from. You don't have the knowledge to go into the Quran and the Sunnah to extract the rulings and all. You don't have that knowledge. You don't have the equipment to do that. So therefore, as Allah said, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. You depend on those who know if you don't know. So regardless of what his madhab may be, you follow him. You ask for the rulings, you ask for the evidence, best as you can, you try to follow it according to following the evidence. Some people say, well, okay, if you do that, then you move somewhere else. And in this other place now, the leading scholar there, he is from another madhab. So now when you ask to do certain things, he's telling you something else. What do you do then? So you just stick with what you learned first. But this new teacher, who you're learning from, he brings the evidence for why he takes his position. The evidence makes sense to you, you follow him. People say, but you just changed. But what did Imam Shafi'i do? Imam Shafi'i studied under Imam Malik for some 20 years. Then he went to Yemen, absorbed knowledge from there. Then he went to Baghdad, studied under the Abu Yusuf, student of, or Muhammad al-Shaybani, student of Abu Hanifa. And he wrote a book called Al-Hujjah with his fiqh rulings. Then he went to Egypt, studied under the students of Imam al-Layth, and changed his rulings and wrote a new book called Al-Umm. So he had rulings after he studied under Imam Malik. He came out of that study with knowledge of Imam Malik and ruled according to what he had learned from Imam Malik. When he absorbed information in Yemen, he changed some of his rulings. When he went to Baghdad, he changed more of his rulings, wrote it up, then went to Egypt and changed his rulings again and wrote up a new book. So if Imam Shafi'i can do it, can we? Did he have a problem? Did anybody say, oh, look at Shafi'i, he's changing his opinion all the time? No, it's not a problem. We go according to the knowledge which is available to us. So no problem to change one's position. You thought it was this way? Where you grew up, they taught you that when you have to make wudu, the time comes to wipe your head, you move your cap back and you touch your head like this 3 times, right? That is called masah. Some people believe that. Some people are doing that, right? So then you find out later that no, it's not that, it's to wipe your whole head from back to front, front to back. That is masah. Change, no problem. You shouldn't have a problem with that. You learn the other one was not correct. Sometimes it may be a question of you can do it that way, you can also do it this way. Sometimes it's a question of right and wrong. Back to taxi driving again. It is impossible to avoid somebody carrying alcohol. What would you advise drivers? Would you advise drivers not to drive? Because some sheikhs told us you don't carry for them, or don't carry them, I guess, but they put themselves. Don't understand that really. You don't carry for them.
The driver don't carry, passenger carry for them.
Don't carry them. Anyway, bottom line is, you, as we said yesterday, avoid those times. You minimize as much as you can. What is beyond your ability, then you ask Allah's forgiveness. Technically speaking, we should say, of course, that if you find that your job causes you to be involved in haram consistently, then you need to change your job, or you need to make hijrah or something. You have to know. I mean, Allah is merciful, but you need to know that if you are deliberately putting yourself back in haram on a consistent basis, you're not trying to get out of it and change your situation, that, Allah is also severe in punishment. Don't just focus on Allah Ghafur Rahim, right? Remember? Can I deliver pizza which mostly contains pork? We talked about that already. It's okay. Even if the rider wants to carry a pig in the back of the car with him, it's okay. It's not haram. To carry a pig, transporting a pig, this is not haram. Transporting alcohol is haram. But transporting a pig, you see, just because the thing is haram, it doesn't mean it can't be carried. There's some things specifically, in the case of alcohol, the Prophet ﷺ has specifically designated that. Transportation of alcohol is haram. But carrying a pig, somebody wants to carry a dog. A lot of people here have dogs. They want to get in your cab with a dog. Can you do it? Yes. It's not haram. If the ruler goes against the laws of Islam, can we go against the ruler? What did the Prophet ﷺ say about this? Well, this is something which the Prophet ﷺ spoke about, where he said as long as the person is still praying, don't rebel against him. Because in your rebellion, you'll create a greater fitna than the fitna that the person is already doing. I could not ask this yesterday. Classical scholars like Imam Shafi'i categorize bid'ah into two: good bid'ah and bad bid'ah. People use this to justify milad and dancing in the mosque and such. What is your opinion about this categorization? Well, I'm not sure about this from Imam Shafi'i in this division, but if we look at it from a linguistic perspective, yes, from a linguistic perspective, you can have good bid'ah. Inventions, anything in our material world which is an improvement or a new invention, this is a good bid'ah. But when we go to the religion, acts which are religious acts, any new religious act is bid'ah, bad bid'ah. There's no such thing as a good bid'ah in religious acts. Good bid'ah in our day-to-day world, technology, etc., lots of good bid'ah. In fact, we're encouraged to make good bid'ah. But in religion, as the Prophet ﷺ said, kullu bid'atin dalala. All bid'ah in religion is misguidance. So he said, this structure in Arabic, kullu, is like kullu muskirin haram. Every intoxicant is haram. Is there a good intoxicant? And we want to accept we have good intoxicants and bad intoxicants. The Prophet ﷺ said every intoxicant is haram. Every innovation in religion is haram. It's like this. Don't make exceptions. Is it right for us to take cops as awliya, helpers, supporters, advisors in difficult situations? Would it be right to have reliance on them, since Allah said not to take the kafirs as our awliya? No, this is taking help from the police is legitimate. If you're taking the help from the police to do something haram, then it's haram. But if there is your neighbor or somebody is doing something harmful to you, to call the police to stop them, that's their job here. You can call on them. It's not considered taking them as your dear friends. You know, when the Quran speaks about not taking the disbelievers as your close friends, that the believers should be your close friends. We're talking about somebody who you confide in, somebody who is your confidant, somebody who you feel close to, one who you trust, who you put that relationship is only that relationship is only, or should only be, for the believers, because you share with them this principle of belief. Is in vitro fertilization, IVF, allowed in Islam for a woman who can't conceive naturally due to medical reasons? Okay, when you're dealing with artificial fertilization, insemination, the basic principle which governs this is the sperm of the man, ovum of the woman, in the womb of the woman. That's it. If you put the sperm and the ovum outside together in a dish and mix them together and then put it in the womb, permissible. But it has to be the sperm of the husband, ovum of the wife, in the womb of the wife. Anything else, what they call surrogate, where you take the sperm, ovum, husband, wife, but you put it in somebody else's womb. Rent a womb, they call it now, right? Or you're using your sperm, somebody else's ovum, or all of these other forms are haram, not permissible in Islam. I've seen Muslims adopting Western culture. Are we allowed to celebrate the following? Bridal showers, baby showers, birthdays? No, we shouldn't do them. Imitation of the kuffar, and some of them even involve religious issues that we're not allowed. Is it allowed to perform janazah prayer here for family members who died elsewhere? Not really. You know, it's done there. The janazah for the absent is done where no janazah is being done for them there. No need to do janazah here. When the Prophet ﷺ made janazah for Najashi, you know, this was because no janazah was done for him there in Ethiopia. New Muslim married. Say I teach my wife Islam knowledge. How do as a new Muslim? Get on the internet, sign up in Islamic Online University, get some knowledge and then pass it on. Could you direct us to some authentic detailed source for us to gain better understanding of Tawheed? Again, Islamic Online University, have lots of information there, courses there in Aqidah you can take. Is cultural New Year's allowed in Islam? Bengali New Year or Chinese New Year? Not allowed. Is it permissible to join the police force in a non-Muslim country? In general, joining the police force, there are some hadiths which indicate that it's not permissible. However, if one establishes an area which is a Muslim area, so you develop or have police force for that area who are Muslims, then this is something permissible. This is the circumstance where we could say that would be permissible. But of course, we don't have that circumstance, you know. We haven't been as wise as the Sikhs in Brampton, you know. Brampton, which is Sikh town, where they have all of the facilities, the governmental officials, everything. There are Sikhs. We should have this as Muslims. We far outnumber them. And we have a stronger basis, Islam, that pulls us together. But we have neglected this principle of hijrah. Can someone make a living by selling automotive insurance? They can do it, but it's haram. My wife is older, 50 years. Or is it 50 or 20? I'm not sure. And still doesn't wear hijab, except for salah. She even leaves the house without hijab. No matter how I try to advise her, she isn't. What do I do? I didn't always practice Islam also. When I married her, I didn't care about hijab. Well, of course, this is life, isn't it? We come to learn the truth, then we have to try to live in accordance with it. As a husband, of course, the husband is held responsible for the acts of his... I mean, she is held responsible before Allah for what she does. But the husband, being the head of the family, he also carries additional burden. That whenever his wife leaves the home without hijab, the sin is also on him. So it's very serious. What can he do? Well, obviously, as they say, he's not wearing the pants in the house. Right? This is the problem. Right? He is not the head of the household, in fact. Right? So this is why he has a problem. Were he the head of the household, in fact, then he would instruct his wife, wear your hijab, and she would do it. So, what can we advise our brother? Anybody have some advice for him? Huh? Be patient.
Don't be a hypocrite. Practice your deen.
Well, he's saying he's practicing now. So he's woken up, he's practicing now, but she's not practicing this part. What advice?
That's a lot of years.
Wisdom. What would you say? Give us your wisdom, brother. Huh? Give her dawah. Just keep trying to encourage her different ways. Get her to sit amongst the women who are wearing hijab, who are of her generation, you know, because there are women who will properly do the hijab. Let her sit amongst them. Let them encourage, you know, if you find yourself in a situation you can't, she won't listen to you, then perhaps, you know, others will influence her.
Also apologize for the years that he didn't practice.
Well, they were both not practicing, maybe. So.
Yeah, but he's supposed to be the man of the house. He's supposed to.
Yeah, but to apologize, of course, he has made his repentance to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I mean, of course, he's not denying the fact, because of course she would say, well, you weren't always practicing. He would say, yeah, I wasn't always practicing, but now I am. We have to deal with now. What came before, I ask Allah to forgive me, and now we have to do what Allah has asked us. Question, could you please explain? Could you please explain the meaning of muks? Mim, kaf, sin. I don't know what that is. Somebody help me on that one. What is muks? Huh? No. Mim, kaf, sin is not one of them. Huh? Anybody? What did the person mean here? Muks.
I was saying about taxation, about taking taxes by force, like whether you like, but you have to take it. So you were saying something about that. is it permissible in the Islamic country? There's some,
Is this what this means? Or is another question you're asking?
That's what he said, the questioner, because he gave it to me to ask, to give it to the...
Well, I don't know this term, MOOCs. But what are you saying? Taxation?
It's regarding taking kind of tax or duty from somebody, whether you like it or not, you have to just pay it. So he was talking about, they was donating to a masjid and they are not giving tax receipt. Now the thing of going to another masjid where they can keep him, because the government is taking taxes from him, so you want to get at least part of the taxes from the government battery, tax return or whatever.
Okay, I guess we can assume that the question that the brother is asking is it okay when you make donations to get some form of a receipt which you can then claim as a deduction and this kind of thing?
40% back.
Yeah, so can you do that? Yes, you can. Yeah, you can.
But do you have to give that money back? Because, say if I gave $100 to the mosque, I can claim about $40 back in my taxes. Maybe he's asking if this...
No, if you claim, whatever you claim on it, it's yours. It's all right. I mean, of course, Allah judges the overall situation in the end. But, I mean, you've made your donation, and this is something, because there are other taxes which are taken, used, which you don't benefit from at all. So, can you clarify on Tawheed, the subject of Tawheed Hakimiyya? Some people say that there's 4 types of Tawheed. Can you specify on the subject? Tawheed Hakimiyya refers to the principle that the making of laws in a Muslim country where Muslims are in control, that those laws should be according to the Sharia. Right? And this, in fact, act of making laws becomes an act of ibadah. What laws have been set by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala we are supposed to submit to and follow. To go and make other laws for people, and then people accept these laws, then it becomes a form of ibadah where they're worshipping other than Allah, as the Prophet ﷺ had given the example with regards to Adi ibn Hatim, where he said that in reference to Christians and Jews, that they were taking their rabbis and priests as lords besides Allah. So it is a part and parcel really of Tawheed al-Ibadah or Tawheed al-Uluhiyya. To call it a separate category is something recent. Is there harm in it? Not really, as long as one doesn't deal with that exclusively and ignore the rest of Tawheed. Because one has to look at Tawheed as a complete, as a whole. All aspects have to be considered. So some scholars have said, well, no, because earlier scholars didn't divide it into 4, to do so is bid'ah. And this is the opinion of some. Others have said, no, it's not necessarily bid'ah, because even the establishment of the 3, or some scholars looked at it as 2, this was something which didn't come specifically from the Sahaba. Scholars analyzing the situation presented the subject in this format. That there may be other formats in presenting, as long as it covers the whole subject, it's legitimate, it's permissible. If a child is an adult and using alcohol and drugs, and you told him to leave your house unless you come back to Allah, can I do that? Yes, you can. Can Muslim businesses sell beverages marketed as halal beer or ladhida, which are similarly bottled as alcoholic beer? Is this from the mutashabihat? No, it's not from the mutashabihat. But what is not beer can be sold and consumed. If it comes in the same bottling, this is actually against the instruction of the Prophet ﷺ, where he told people to break the containers which were normally used to carry alcohol. But the sale still remains a permissible sale. Can Muslim businesses, same thing, sorry. Is it permissible for someone to make charity to non-Muslim organizations? Yes, it's permissible. But it's preferable to give it to Muslim organizations. Do children whose mothers are single or divorced have a right to ask their parents what they use their money for? What do they do? Everything in life, even though they provide their mom no money? Well, in terms of respect, for a child to be asking the parents these things, if they were the ones earning and providing the money, and the mother is using the money for them to ask in terms of what she's spending the money on, we will not say it is not illegitimate, but in terms of proper etiquette with regards to one's parents, would not be pleasing to Allah for one to be demanding of one's parents as to how they spend their money or what they're using it for. Unless the parent has become demented, they're losing their senses of right and wrong, and they need help. If an ex-husband who left his children from young then depends on them financially, and if they don't, he curses them, says he disowns them, yet paid nothing for them, is this right? No, it's not right. Of course it's haram. Is it the right of a husband or a man to refuse his wife or prevent his wife from attending lectures, khutbah, and maybe seeking Islamic knowledge? Yes, it's not permissible. It is her right to seek knowledge, as long as it doesn't involve dropping the rights of the home. Right? If she's doing what is required of her in her home, and she wants to seek knowledge, then the husband should facilitate and help her. The new organization this is a political thing here now. The new organization is a terrorist organization called Al-Shabaab. have become, I guess, rampant among our youths in Toronto. It also claimed young brothers' lives. Is Al-Shabaab a righteous cause? And are what the brothers in Somalia spreading Sharia law in the correct way? Well, I don't have enough knowledge of the situation there in Somalia to make a judgment on that. Better to ask the scholars among Somalis here, like Sheikh Bashir in Khalid bin Walid or Sheikh Saeed. They're in better position to make that kind of judgment. Shampoo and conditioner, school juice, home juice. That was, I guess that was a shopping list. If somebody is drunk, can you pick him up and take him to his house? Yes. When it's prohibited to transport alcohol, it doesn't mean because he's got alcohol in his belly now you can't transport him. Well, you can transport him. Inshallah.
You mentioned in your talk about how some Christians and other people of other faiths, they develop their faith based on emotion And I have this friend who, that's basically where he gets his faith from, this emotion. And people, he goes to these things where he sees healings and spiritual things and stuff. What's your advice to give da'wah to him to try to get out from that and try to make his faith on knowledge instead? How do you change his mindset?
Well, the individual, of course, brother's question, where he has a friend, a Christian friend, whose faith is based on emotion. He has witnessed the faith healings and these kind of things, and so he is committed to this faith based on what he has seen with his own eyes. How do we bring such a person out of that situation and get them to choose their faith on the basis of knowledge? This depends on the person, what your relationship is with the person. It's difficult, but I would say that you can point out to them that there are others, Buddhists, Hindus, etc., who have the same thing. So what happens if we go now, we see a Hindu is doing his stuff and people are getting healed and all of this, then what? You're going to start to believe and worship the idols? See, this is common sense here. It's like people will say, I know that Jesus is God because I raised my hand and called on Jesus and my prayers were answered. So I'm sure. They will say, well, what about the Hindu who calls on Shiva and his prayers are answered? Then what? Shiva's true too? So you have to think that everybody raises their hands. If prayers were never answered, right, except when people raise their hands to Allah, would they remain a non-Muslim on the earth? No. It would spread like wildfire. You just have to raise your hands, call on Allah, and your prayers are answered. There wouldn't be a single non-Muslim on the face of the earth. So the trial is that everybody raises their hands. Some prayers are answered, some prayers are not. Now we have to decide who is answering the prayers here. Is it Jesus? Is it Shiva? Buddha? Or is it Allah?
Is he Christian?
Yeah.
One thing you can get a book, it's called The Choice.
Yeah.
I used to be a Christian, so yeah, and I've given it to many Christians. It's called The Choice by, how do you say his name?
Ahmed Didat.
Yeah, and a few of my friends have become Muslim from reading the book because it has stuff quoting from the Bible and quoting from the Quran about Jesus, peace be with him.
But the basis though is reason. I mean, you need to, if he's willing to reason and listen and think for a minute, then fine. But if you're giving him a book, if he's just locked down in this thing, then no matter what you give, he's just going to put it aside, he's not going to read it, We have some people that just don't want, no, these are books of the Antichrist, Dajjal, they don't want to read anything else. We've been warned about you guys,
Of the Muslim countries that exist today, which one in your opinion would be the best to do hijrah to?
Of the Muslim countries today, which one would be the best to do hijrah to? I would say Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia.
Brother, there are some like mortgage companies that they claim to be Islamically doing mortgages. Now, in comparison,
okay, don't go into the comparisons. The principle is, can we have an Islamic mortgage company? Yes, it's possible. It's possible. According to principle of Sharia, Islamic economics, it is possible. Now, is every company which says that it's Islamic mortgage company halal? Maybe not. Maybe some people use this title, but what they're doing in the background is not. So one has to look at the company itself. How reputable is it? They have a Sharia board? Or is it just somebody saying, no, we are? If you have a Sharia board, then who's on the Sharia board? Are they reputable scholars who are looking over their transactions? Yes? Then okay. That's enough.
Is it basic knowledge to gain as an individual? Look into what is the Sharia way of...
No, to try to go into Islamic economics and understand it with sufficient depth that you're going to be able to analyze the transactions going on in that company, that's too much for the average Muslim. If you're an economist, then okay, fine. You have the tools that will let you go in there and look at this thing more closely. But for the average Muslim, it's enough that they have a Sharia board. A board which looks over the transactions of the company. And the people in that Sharia board are reputable scholars in the community. You know them, you know who they are. They're reputable. You know that these are solid Muslim scholars. So then that's enough. You go ahead.
It's permissible to carry pork, right?
Yes. Not eat it.
What is I'm a cook? Am I allowed to cut it, cook it, eat it?
As a cook, yes, it is permissible. You could do it. But we say, is it something good? As a Muslim, should you work in that type of circumstance? I would say no. Better that you work in a halal restaurant, etc. But cutting a pig, cooking it, technically speaking, what is haram is the eating of the pig. That is what is clearly haram.
Selling it. What about selling it?
Well, the sale of the price of the pig, generally speaking, the scholars hold that it's not permissible, it's haram. Like the price of a dog.
I'm from Bangladesh, and in our country, when people die, then before the burial, a lot of people they count and do like La ilaha illallah like 124,000 times, and such like counting and the thing, the other thing too. So is it permissible by Sunnah, or is it?
No, this is not according to Sunnah. For people, when people die, what the Prophet ﷺ did, what his companions did, for those who die, are well-known acts. Making dua for the dead, giving charity. These are the known things. But gathering on so many days, 7th day, 40th day, these kinds of gatherings, or doing things like specifying amounts of dhikr to do, or reading of Quran, and giving the reward of it to the dead. This is not from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. What is the ruling in Islam on a brother who refuses to answer salam? And we got 1 more minute, we're stopping, according to the clock at the back here. And when reminded of its importance and the Prophet ﷺ's advice, he says, I don't want to reply to your salam. Well, of course, the brother is in haram. It's the right of a Muslim that when you give salams, he reply. It's not obligatory to give salams in the first place, but it is obligatory to respond to salams. So for a brother to refuse to give salams back, this is haram. Okay, I think that's the last question.
فإنه يتوب إلى الله متابا والذين لا يشهدون الزور وإذا مروا باللغو مروا كراما والذين إذا ذكروا بآيات ربهم لم يخروا عليها صما وعميانا والذين يقولون ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما أولئك يجزون الغرفة بما صبروا ويلقون فيها تحية وسلاما خالدين فيها حسنت مستقرا ومقاما قل ما يعبأ بكم ربي لولا دعاؤكم فقد كذبتم فسوف يكون لزاما.